Hi, third grade. I hope you had a great day. Sun is out, and I hope you're able to get outside and enjoy some fresh air. And it's time to read Soldier Dogs. We are on chapter 16. We're about halfway through this book. Okay. Matt and Rachel raced to the end of the street, chasing the fallen parachute. They clambered over a cement ridge that rose a few inches from the ground. The iron fence posts, once planted in the cement, had been removed for the war effort. Grass grew on the other side of the ridge. A stone's throw in front of Matt, a few trees lofted overhead. The air smelled of fresh water. The river ran along the base of those trees. It wasn't much of a river, actually. It was more of a canal running smoothly between high walls. Matt liked it better than a regular wide, unwalled river. It was more historical, almost like a moat around a castle or a fort. "Do you see him?" Rachel asked. Matt scanned the sky. "No." "Are you sure it was a parachute?" "Either that or the biggest bat in the world." He followed a path closer to the river. "I guess it could have been the shadow of a plane in the smoke." Rachel shivered. "But there's no light to make a shadow." "Are you cold?" He looked at her, wrapping her arms around herself in her thin pajamas and slippers. "You look cold." "You look cold, too. I'm not going away." "I never said—" "Hush," Rachel said. "You hush," Matt said. "No, hush and listen. Do you hear that?" "Hear what?" Matt cocked his head. Flip, 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 flip. Huh, something's flapping. "Like a parachute?" Rachel asked. Matt squinted into the darkness of the park. "Yeah, like a parachute." "Or like the biggest bat in the world?" "Well, let's find out," Matt said, and jogged toward the sound. When he rounded a bush, he almost couldn't believe his eyes. He was right. A dark, ragged shape stretched overhead, tangled in the branches of a tree. A black, flapping shape. A parachute. Cords and ropes stretched from the tree across the ground, then disappeared. "What? That didn't make any sense." Matt ran closer. "Oh," he told Rachel, "the river." The parachute cords disappeared into the inky blackness of the canal. "Hello," Matt called. "Hello?" "Here," a man's voice replied weakly. "In here." "Coming," Matt said, and scrambled to the edge of the canal. When he looked over, he found a man dangling at the end of the parachute ropes. Blood smeared his face beneath a soft leather helmet with built-in ear protectors. The river water covered his flight suit up to his shoulders. You're a night fighter," Matt said, still amazed. "You flew a Spitfire here to defend the city." The half-submerged, blood-streaked man peered up at Matt. "And you are the sight for the sore eyes," meaning he's really glad to see Matt. Matt almost admitted that he daydreamed about flying a Spitfire, but he remembered just in time that Spitfires weren't usually used for night fighting anyway. Instead, the Brits used bullfighters, and Matt couldn't let his daydreams distract him now. "Don't worry," he said. "We're here to help." "Good. Yes," the pilot groaned. "I could use a few helping hands." Saying a few helping hands instead of a helping hand made Matt think of Rachel and how she sometimes got English phrases wrong. Something was strange about the man's accent. But the British often use different words for things like lorry instead of truck and lift instead of elevator. Matt crouched down to grab the parachute cords. He pulled and yanked, but the pilot didn't budge. Rachel grabbed a handful of the cords behind Matt. They heaved together, and still they couldn't pull the waterlogged man out of the canal. "He's too heavy," Matt told Rachel. "I cannot free myself from these threads," the pilot said. His voice strained as he fought to stay above the water. "And if I slip, they will keep me from the swimming." "He'll drown," Rachel said. "No," Matt said. "We won't let him." Chapter 17. The parachute cords jerked in Matt's hands when the pilot shifted, trying to climb up the side of the canal. Matt braced himself and tugged, but the cords wouldn't budge. When he looked into the canal, he saw blood dripping into the pilot's eyes from a cut on his forehead. The tangling ropes kept him from getting a grip, and he slid deeper into the water. "Hold on," Matt wrapped the cords around his wrists. "Rachel, tie the other end to the tree." "There's too much. I don't know the word. There are too many loose parts." "Too much slack?" he asked. She scuffled behind him. "I'll get a stick." "A what?" Rachel darted away, disappearing into the shadows under the tree. "What are you going to do with a stick?" Matt grunted as the parachute cord tugged at his arms. If he wasn't careful, he'd get pulled into the water, too. Rachel's voice floated from the darkness. "Tie the ropes around it." "There's no time for that." Matt leaned backward until he fell onto his butt. He wedged his heels against the stone lip of the canal. "Hang on." "I'm hanging," the pilot said. "Believe me." The parachute cord slowly pulled Matt closer to the canal. He strained with all his might and held tight. "Sorry." The pilot swore, but not in English. "What?" Matt felt a chill in his skin. "What'd you say?" Nothing for the youngster's ears," he said. Matt peered into the darkness. "I haven't heard your accent before." "I am," and a splash sounded from the river, "Scottish." "Oh." A grunt arose from the darkness. "Plus, I am almost drowning." "Yeah," Matt turned his head. "Rachel, where are you?" Her answer floated from the shadows. "I can't find a stick big enough." Matt chewed his lower lip. He needed to do something fast, something better than telling Rachel to stop looking for a stupid stick. The parachute cord dug into his wrists. His arms ached with the strain. His back burned, and his knees wobbled. He needed Eric, and he needed Chief. He needed help. The parachute cord bit into his skin. The ground chilled his legs through his pajamas. He took a breath and tried to ignore the pain. He couldn't hold on for much longer. He couldn't. "1 minute," Rachel said behind him. The cords jerked and wiggled in his grip. He dug his heels in and tightened his grip. "Done," Rachel finally said. Matt glanced over his shoulder. She'd wriggled a stout branch between a bunch of the parachute cords, then spun it around. The cords had gathered together, looping around the branch. The parachute was still stuck in the tree, but now the cords had a branch shoving through them like a reel on a fishing pole. And as Rachel turned the branch over and over, the parachute cord looped around more tightly. When she wound the cords around the branch, it took up the slack in the ropes. In a moment, Matt felt the cords tighten from behind him. He loosened his grip, but the pilot didn't plunge into the water. "Hold on," he yelled, scrambling to his feet. "We've got to." A faint splashing sound from the canal. Matt darted to Rachel, flapping his hands to get rid of the ache. "Great job, Rachel. You are a smarty pants." She peered at him. I have clever underwear? No, I mean you're smart. Oh, forget it. Matt helped her spin the branch around and around, pulling the parachute cord tighter and dragging the pilot out from the water. Inch by inch, the tree branches bent toward the canal. Twigs snapped. The cord grew tighter, wrapping around the middle of the branch. Pretty soon the branch stopped spinning so easily. Matt and Rachel pulled and shoved and grunted, pushing, trying to reel the pilot up higher. Good, the pilot called. Only a little more. Schnell, schnell. Rachel gasped. Drop him, Matt, drop him. What? What's wrong? Didn't you hear what he said? Well, that's Scottish, Matt said. No, Rachel said. That's German. He wasn't in a British night fighter. He was a German bomber. That's all for today. Study for your spelling test tomorrow.